This is all live, so there's no going back and forth. Hodl, hodl, hodl. Save, save, save. Build a, build a, build a. Sound money, sound money. All right, this is Ugly Old Goat here. And I'm going to be doing a read through of my latest article, but I'm going to go through it real quick because what I really want to do here is I want to go through. Can you give me the? Can I have this? Okay. I want to go through and outline, and we want to go through and outline physically backed NFTs. And I have a guest coming on. He's caught in traffic right now and in a cab, so hopefully he'll be here in 10 or 15 minutes. But it's Elias Ahonen. And I just discovered him as I wrote this article. I did not know that this book exists or his activities, and it's fascinating to me. He's really a historian on Bitcoin coins, the actual physical coins. And I think this is a very historic. I think he's done. He's got an excellent reputation. He's done a thorough job of researching this stuff, and so I think he's going to really help define what a collectible is. And I think I've done that pretty well in the article. So I'm going to go through here and quickly read through this until Elias comes on. And again, I started this article. NFTs are at best a fun hobby and a poor investment, and that's true. I hold on to that. And at worst, that's a flim-flam scam designed to enrich promoters. I added this one caveat. There perhaps is one exception, and again, I'm going to go through the first part of this article because the exception was actually pointed out to me by Elias Ahonen. And in the original article, I indicated that the 4K, which is an exchange physical custody NFTs, did not pass the scam test, and I really didn't think they did. And I publicly challenged that, and Elias Ahonen answered me, and he did prove it otherwise. And so I subsequently have revised the article to reflect this colloquy. In my last article, I outlined why DeFi was doomed to fail. The current train wreck of crypto banks is because these banks create an unsound money base. And the result is there's no prayer to really develop a sound fiduciary money. You got to have a sound base, and then the fiduciary money has to be developed on that sound base. That's what commercial banking, sound commercial banking is really all about. But here I'm going to outline why NFTs are at best a poor investment and at worst a flim-flam scam designed to enrich promoters. And then I will address specifics beyond what my good friend Jimmy Song has done generally. This is a great article by Jimmy Song, which I encourage you to read. And he just dismisses all NFTs outright, which I tend to do too. But show me otherwise. I'm open to listening, but I'm not going to waste a lot of time with it because most they're all scams so far, except the one possible exception that we're going to address with Elias Ahonen in a few minutes. NFTs. The problem with them is they substitute something virtual and digital for something that's tangible and physical. And this creates all kinds of unintended consequences. There's links here if you want to find out what some of those consequences are. So baseball cards are perhaps the best example to clarify the distinction because they're a widely based collector value. The 1952 Mickey Mantle baseball card below recently sold for $12.6 million. And so no doubt collectibles, they can pay off handsomely. But what makes this particular collector's piece unique? Okay, first, look, it's graded at 9.5. Whoops, what is going on here? I'm terrible at technology, guys. Okay, it's graded at 9.5, which is nearly flawless. It's not average, it's not poor, but it's in mint condition. And it's not just mint condition, guys. It's the finest known example. Okay, second, baseball cards have a wide base of early collectors. I actually collected them as a kid. And I even remember I had a couple Mickey Mantle baseball cards. They were in very poor condition, and I traded them with other kids they were all in equally poor condition because we were carrying them everywhere. They were full of dirt and candy and everything else. And of course, it didn't take but a few years, and Mom finally threw them all away in the trash because she thought they were worthless. And my eBay research reveals there's a huge price difference between the finest specimen and the next lower grade. And here's the example that I found. This is a grade lower. It's a PSA, called an NM, and I don't know what all this means, 8, but it's a super high-end card. And it appears to be a 9 grade at first glance, but upon closer inspection, the card can exhibit the following. It can have a very slight wax stain on the reverse. It can have slight fraying at or on the 2 corners and a minor printing imperfection, and or it can be slightly off-white borders. These are little tiny distinctions, but they're big distinctions for collectors. And the difference reveals a $12.4 million price difference between a grade 8 and 9. Because here's an 8, you can get it on eBay for $200,000, and that's a big difference between the $12.4 million. There's a $12.2 million difference just between one grade on a baseball card. This is not an anomaly. This is just the way the collectors markets work. Further, should American baseball go the way of Mayan baseball? Now, I don't know if you know about the Mayan culture, but they actually had a baseball game. I think they killed the winners or the losers. I don't remember exactly how it went. But at any rate, if American baseball, if we lose our civilization, American baseball is going to go the way of Mayan baseball. Nobody knows about it. It will simply be an interesting footnote in American history and future civilization. They might dig up one of our stadiums, and they'll find this mint condition baseball, and they'll impute, wow, this is really good. It's a great collector's piece. But the likelihood of that next civilization valuing the individual players is very unlikely, next to nil. And my point is just this. Imputed value is a very fickle thing. And the imputed value of a baseball card is heavily dependent on the fan and collector base. And without human action at all, there's no imputed value. That's another issue. I've covered that in other areas, but all value is imputed. And the hype about sales on all collector pieces is dubious. And so far, I'm just limited the collective pieces to things that are tangible and physical in a collector market with a large collector base. Now we're going to go into these NFTs. It's because collector pieces are tangible and because they're physical that they decay and they disappear over time. That's what makes them rare and valuable. Rarity and condition is what creates the basis for imputed value. NFTs lack the collector quality of being tangible and physical. NFTs are virtual and digital, and by definition, they are unique. They are one of a kind. If the NFT is lost, it is gone. There's nothing to appreciate in value. They do not decay or deteriorate like the Mona Lisa. And here's a picture of the Mona Lisa. It's one piece of artwork, and it's held in the Louvre, and this thing deteriorates every year. They do everything they can to preserve it, but there's entropy in the universe. Now, you can take, for example, the infamous Jack Dorsey tweet, and this was purchased by an NFT promoter in December 2020 for $2.9 million. Well, recently he put it back up for auction, and the best offer was $280. Now, this moron did not purchase the tweet. He just purchased an NFT of the tweet without any other ownership right. And these highly touted multi-million sales in NFTs are suspect. They just are. In fact, all collector pieces, an advertised sale is usually suspect. It's usually an auction house promoting it or a certain group promoting their little collector niche. Now, the evidence suggests that these nominal prizes are the creation of promoters. Now, the one-of-a-kind uniqueness that can in an NFT, it can be circumvented if you create a limited edition. For example, instead of creating one, you create 10 and you number them. And then if one of those is lost, well, then there's only 9 left. And let's say the number one labeled number 1 is lost, well, then maybe 2 becomes the most valuable. But boy, that's pushing the string because we don't know. that would have to be something that the market develops. Again, it's an imputed value, and it would just be a very wild speculation. But unlike baseball cards, NFTs, they don't have a widespread collector base. And the main beneficiary for the NFTs then is their creators. And this is why the growth in NFTs is primarily with established brand names who find them to be an additional revenue source. Now, this includes baseball cards. Just a couple year or two ago, the baseball card industry, they started creating NFT cards with no card. And the case can be made that such promotions will create a fan base of its own down the road, but this is by no means assured. Collecting physical memorabilia can be fun and a great hobby, but don't be fooled in believing it's a wise investment. It is the destruction, loss, and degradation of physical memorabilia that creates value over time. NFTs lack this collector quality, and huge premiums are built into their promotion, making it an extremely risky investment with poor speculative potential. All right. I just have been notified that, all right, Elias Ahonen is here. I'm going to stop right in the middle of this because I want to welcome him on the show. Are you there, Elias? Hello, hello. I need my headphone. All right.
Hello?
All right, there he is. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm glad we made our acquaintance. It kind of was a rough start, but I think we're going to have a glorious finish here. I really like your work, man, and so I wanted to get you out there. I'm a hard gatekeeper when it comes to NFTs, which I think you found out. So, but your work has fascinated me. Can you kind of show his website there? Flash on that, and I just want to show everybody this is what Elias done. You've really become well known. I love your work, man. I really do. I think you've really got a great niche, and I want to encourage you to develop it further. You're a young man too. How old are you?
28.
28. All right. Well, you can do this for the next 50 years then. And you'll be I think you're really on the right track. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing? I just did a little bit of research. I understand you're working on your PhD now, or did you get that accomplished?
Yeah, so I recently got my master's in international law. Working on metaverse law and questions regarding states and the metaverse and where that is all going. I think there's a lot of unanswered and a lot of kind of a Pandora's box that has been opened that people yet don't know where it's going to go. But I think there's some serious consequences there. But I mean, I've been in the blockchain space we can start with Bitcoin, obviously, since 2013. At that point, I was 18. I started buying physical cassatious coins, partly because I wasn't a technical guy and I found the rest of it quite intimidating. So, I started collecting these physical Bitcoins, which I think there was a bit of discussion in the last day or so regarding. And with that, that led me to writing an ebook, and that led me to writing a kind of a textbook encyclopedia of these physical Bitcoins. And the purpose of that was to present the you could say the physical relics of this blockchain movement, because of course this is a digital movement. But when we look at coins, on our coins, we as civilizations, as cultures, as societies, our money tends to reflect our ideals and also very basic concepts. I mean, of course, I think it's appropriate here to bring in Queen Elizabeth, for example, who is on millions of coins and actually has died in the last couple hours, and I just heard about that.
Oh, really? She just died?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's going to be the dominating news for a few days.
Yeah, I was actually just they started the live broadcast about 15-20 minutes ago, but it happened some hours ago. So it's a pretty big thing. I mean, I'm Canadian, of course, so she is was my monarch as well. But anyway, besides that, So this,
Well, you know, there's a whole protocol that kicks in now that she died.
Yeah, this is Operation London Bridge is down, and you know, all the reporters everywhere are announcers. They're wearing dark suits, black ties, all this. It's I mean, this hasn't happened in 70 years, and it's quite a big deal, obviously. But I won't focus on that just because.
No. We want to.
It's
but it's kind of like it's not quite being. You know, where were you when the World Trade, you know, was bombed, or where were you when JFK was assassinated? For people under the British rule, it's that kind of an event. You're going to remember where you were when you heard about it.
Yeah, well, it was announced literally about 25 minutes ago, and but I think we saw it coming. I mean, I want to say it was 7 p.m. London time approximately, and at lunchtime they effectively shut off all of the programming on BBC and said that, you know, basically we're just playing stuff about her and you know, saying that everything is suspended till 6 p.m. And I kind of expected that at 6 p.m. they announced around, I guess, 6:40 or so.
Wow, that was, you know, I saw her greeting the new prime minister, so she was active. Right
2 days ago.
Yeah, that was amazing. So when I go, I hope I go that quick. All right, well, let's get back to it, man. This is kind of a very, hopefully this is a historic recording that we're doing, because I got into Bitcoin at the same time you did in 2013, and I went to one of these early Bitcoin meetings, and I met the creator of the Casicious coin. What's his name? The creator of the Casicious? The creator.
Mike Caldwell.
Yeah, Mike Caldwell. So I met him there, and I bought one of the coins. I paid 2.5 Bitcoin for it, which was about $500, because Bitcoin was about $200 at the time. And I've actually had, you probably have heard of Tone Vase, he's very much opposed to NFTs and all this. We have a very similar outlook on things, probably him more so than me. But I knew he was trying to sell his Casicious at one time, and you know, he couldn't. It commanded a premium, but not anywhere the premium he thought it was worth. And so I know that this is a problem, but collector's pieces, and this is what I outlined in my article, and I really appreciate that you went through my article and you met my challenge, because I want to, you know, I can be wrong on this stuff, guys. I certainly don't know the back end. So I hopefully in this article, and we're not going to, I usually do a read through, but since I have you on, I really want to pick your brain and hear from you more than I want to hear from me, because I really do consider you an expert in this. And guys, I'm going to stop the read through because I want to focus on this Casicious. And the reason that I focused on it is they have created an NFT that represents a Casicious. You can create an NFT, and they call it physical custody NFTs, which is really quite different, I think, from any of the other NFTs out there, because what you're doing is you're creating an NFT that is already backed by a real hard collector's piece, which we all know these Casicious are just, they're historic. They really, really are, particularly for Bitcoin believers. And they've already are commanding substantial premiums, and by creating an NFT, the exchange that created the NFT has commanded somewhat of a premium, because I know when my friend Tone Vase tried to sell his, he never got an offer that he thought was right. And recently they were able to sell one on their exchange. It was a silver, I think 2013 Casicious, for 3.5 times the Bitcoin content, which that was about, I'm sure, about the premium at the time for the person that bought it. I think I paid 2.5 for brass. I don't know. You probably know the history of those things better than I do. What was the premium on a silver Casicious? Do you know?
And they vary.
Okay. And so you're actually grading. Just tell us what you're doing on this, because I'm going to link people to your website so they can see. Can you show the website? And that is Cryptominus. How do you say it?
Crypto numist. That is,
Crypto numis.
numismatics.
Right. So, I mean, you really are establishing yourself as the authenticator and expert in this niche. And I think you found a wonderful niche, and I wanted to encourage you on it. So, explain to us why you think a physically backed NFT has value, and how is it different from any other NFT?
Well, I mean, I think the bigger question is when you say how is it different from any other NFT, that's kind of making the NFT into a thing, and the NFT is not a thing. It's more like, it's kind of like saying, you know, why is this piece of paper that is a bond any different than any piece of toilet paper, or something like that? It's kind of a nonsensical mode of reasoning, because if you loan me $100, I can go on I can give you I can take a napkin, and that napkin is nothing. But if I write on that napkin, I owe you $10, and sign my name, that is fundamentally, with certain limitations, it is a legal contract, right? It is a legal claim.
Agreed.
To me, right?
Exactly.
Now, whether it's on a napkin, or whether it's on whether it's written on something else, whether it's on a business card, whether it's a coupon, whether it's an NFT, whether it's an email that I send you, it's fundamentally the same thing. The difference is that when it's an NFT, it just means that it's a piece of napkin that can't be faked, and it's a piece of napkin that can be effectively seamlessly transferred across borders very easily. Whereas, if you wanted to take my $10 napkin and sell it to someone else for $8, because maybe whatever, it would be kind of, you'd have to ship it there. It would. So that's fundamentally what we have.
Okay, and on these exchanges, let's go down to the NFT that's sold on the exchanges, because essentially, do you have to give up custody to create an NFT? Let me ask you that question.
I mean, again, anyone can create an NFT of anything. I can create an NFT with, we can take a screenshot of this, and every single one of us watching can create an NFT, and it's nothing. It's just you create something, but it doesn't mean it has any value. Just like anything, you can take a piece of paper, you can write whatever on it, you can draw a piece of art, and it doesn't have any intrinsic value beyond what someone else wants to pay for it. So I may have lost the where we were going with this.
All right, well, let's go to the part of the article that I wrote where you are the one where we talk about the NFT cassatious, and because I really do think they're a legitimate collectible. Number one, that I know that we both agree wholehearteantly on, and where I'm encouraging you so much. And again, I bought one at $500 when Bitcoin was about $200, and then recently here was a press release where the NFT market, and you're the authenticator on this marketplace involved. That's correct? Okay. And so they are building legitimacy into their platform because you are probably the top authenticator in the world. And I understand that. That builds some value and you're creating a market, liquidity for people that have these cassatious coins. And so in the case of physically backed NFTs, there is the appearance of a value added. But what I examined thoroughly what's going on here, and the value added, it comes from the physical item, which, again, in order to get that value, you have to give it up, and it has to be held on the exchange. And then the exchange then claims to improve the liquidity. And I think they do that one way because they're exposing you to the DeFi network and the Web3 and all that stuff, which, again, I like the concept. I don't like the monetary base. And this is and then the exchange claims that they're improving the liquidity, which they do, and it's combined with the respected third-party authenticator, which is you. And there, I have links here. This is your website, and here's the link to the 4K platform. But I went through all the fine print on this, and to offer a physically backed NFT on this exchange, you must store that asset on the exchange until it's sold. And I understand that. I mean, that's a reasonable thing to do. So essentially, the exchange is providing you an NFT that's really not worth anything in exchange for your hard, tangible, valuable asset, and they're promising as a bond. I like your idea of a bond. And an old adage does come into play, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So the analogy where I transition from this not being a scam and that being legitimate is it's really no different than any other Bitcoin exchange, that you're giving up custody of your Bitcoin and you're trusting the exchange in their fiduciary capacity. And so in that sense, it's not a scam at all, so long as you're aware that this is what's going on. Is that fair?
That's fair. And I mean, I think when we talk about, and I understand we're focusing on cassacious coins here, and you're kind of speaking of them as Bitcoin, but it's that even is a little bit inaccurate, because it's kind of like saying, I'm giving up my silver when you're really giving up a silver coin that is actually worth,
right,
tens or hundreds of times. So it's, it's not that people are sending Bitcoin or digital currency; they're sending valuables, Rolexes,
and I try to
things like this.
Yeah, and I try and explain that by showing them that a cassacious coin still has a value if it doesn't have any Bitcoin on it.
Yes.
They're selling for $1,000. I really think they're being offered for $1,000 on eBay. So these things are worth something if they're not loaded with Bitcoin. And of course, the Bitcoin, and particularly it's collector pieces, they're just fickle. They really are. A collector piece is whatever a collector is willing to pay for it. Collectors are weird people because they collect things. They don't really care about if they have the money, they'll buy it because they want it. So then I kind of go into Jimmy's song because he has a real high standard. He says, yeah, you got to overcome all this stuff. So, yeah, you're right, Jimmy. So let me go through all the spaghetti here and see what we really have. And I'm not here to, the whole article was not meant to disparage you, because I really have a high opinion of what you're doing or the exchange. But I just initially tell my people that follow me that it's much safer to just use eBay. Because you're not giving up your custody, and all those protocols are in place on eBay. Although it's a awfully high ticket item that I don't know that I'd want to do it through eBay. I think you want to find a private buyer, which I think that's what you specialize in.
If I may, I mean, again, and this, say this with a grain of salt, because this is also how, of course, I have my own interests here, but
right.
I personally would not sell a cassacious coin on eBay for the reason that, what if someone buys it, they receive the coin, and, for example, they peel it and say it was peeled or something like this. I think there's a huge risk. And for that reason, I would much rather, and again, this is me speaking as someone who actually does the brokerage on these coins, and I'm kind of just lending that, expertise to 4K and other services as well. It's kind of a specialty market, and, there have been scams.
Well, it really is. It really is, and I. That's why I respect you so much for what you're doing. I think what fascinates me is that you are actually lending your name, in a sense, to an exchange, and you're building their value to authenticate their coins. Now, I realize you have nothing to do with that exchange. I suppose they're just hiring you for your expertise. Is that the relationship you have?
Correct.
Yeah. And so, the only danger I would say, well, what if the exchange itself turns out to be, that they do a rug pull or something. And I'm not saying they are. That's not where I'm going. I'm not impugning anybody's integrity. I'm going to assume they're all honest guys. Okay. But that is what's widespread in the industry. And that's what I'm trying to protect my people against. I don't want them to have, or at least if they know that this risk is there, then that's fine. It's just like when I tell them, if you're going to trade on these exchanges, just realize it's not your Bitcoin. You can lose anything you have on an exchange, you can possibly lose. And that's also true if you're using a exchange for, physical NFTs. Is that a fair assessment? What I'm saying?
Again, when we speak about physical NFTs, yes, there are physical NFTs. I wrote a recent article on Cointelegraph about the legal absurdities of the metaverse, and just around the different, NFT use cases we have and legal cases. There's a firm, I think it's called Liquid Earth, and they're actually building a global real estate exchange where you can sell real estate titles as NFTs, and you can buy the NFT, and when you own that NFT, you own that real estate title to whatever real estate is in whatever country. And they're trying to essentially bridge real estate markets between borders in a way that you're able to seamlessly transact in those. And is that a physical backed NFT? Well, it's kind of like looking at a real estate deed and saying, is this a physical backed piece of paper? Well, but it's...
Yeah, every jurisdiction has its own laws, and I get it. Right. I would like to, we'll link to that. Do you have the link to that article? Do you want to share it with us? Or
you can... Not me.
We'll,
you just
we'll
look
link,
up
we'll link
me on
at the end of it.
Cointelegraph. You'll see it.
Okay.
It's the latest one. I write for Cointelegraph. I think I've published close to 50 articles with them in the past 2 years.
Really? Okay.
About all these different subjects. So I guess with that, I'll just get. I'm holding this on my lap here. So this is the Encyclopedia of Physical Bitcoins, and that's the 2016 book, and it's a bit of a coffee table book. It's a very niche enthusiast book. And then the recent one, which came out last year, that's Blockland, the 21 Stories of Bitcoin, Blockchain, and Cryptocurrencies. And it tells the history through kind of it uses mythological elements. It uses it's a bit of a storybook, but also a textbook and a memoir of the first decade of the blockchain movement. And you can see it there on the site as well.
You know what? We're both believers in collector's pieces. Is there any way that I can order your 2 books and have a signed copy directly from you, and we can pass that on to our people that are listening to? Because I think your book is a classic collector's piece. It really, I'm persuaded that it will be, because you're developing your expertise as a young man, and it's just a huge future in where you're going with us. And I just want to encourage you and lift you up in every way I can.
Sure. Actually on my site, if you order the book there, either book, I offer the opportunity. I don't publicize it much, but if you drop me an email, I will digitally sign the book. It'll be my signature.
Are these digital books, or are there hard copies too?
No, they're hard copies. They'll print the signature on it. I'll
really?
Sign it with a digital pen effectively, but because physical shipping of pen marks is I'm in Dubai, so it's a pain.
Oh, really?
Okay. But yes. So anyway, those signature, individualized, personalized books are available, and basically on request. I'm happy to do it.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to do it, because I think they're genuine collector pieces. And we kind of do it. I'm in Mexico, and we kind of do it the old-fashioned way. I'm not up on all this technology, so I literally sign them by hand, and we ship them out. I run them down to the post office and ship them out, so I'm not that technologically savvy. But I do really appreciate what you're doing, and that's why I'm here to pick your brain. And I'm going to start getting on Telegram and reading all your past articles. Again, I wasn't aware of your existence until I just saw the press release, and then I started looking into this. So let me see if I understand at least the non-fungible, the physical tokens that are offered on this 4K, and I know this is not, you don't have anything to do with the exchange. You just are authenticating the things that are offered on the exchange. And I don't know if we can reach out. I'd love to have one of their representatives on the show. They could maybe explain this stuff to us better. From going all the way through it, I mean, they have all kinds of, promotions like it's fully insured, but I was in that business and I went broke and I didn't do my fiduciary work. So I know and I had insured deposits, but I know they're only insured for physical loss. They're only insured if there's an actual break-in. They're not insured for malfeasance. If these people walk off with the assets, you're not insured. And of course, there's nothing in the TOS that shows what the insurance contract is really like. And so, again, I get it. They have to promote themselves, but there's no insurance against, not doing your fiduciary responsibilities. And then I go through, and it's really in the terms of service, it's not identified as segregated storage for each depositor. In fact, you kind of argued originally, well, it's like a luggage ticket or a hat check. It doesn't appear that it really is, because it doesn't suggest, the TOS does not suggest that it's segregated storage. It does seem like it's commingled storage. And there's nothing in the TOS that's preventing any rehypothecation, which we all know the problems that can bring. So it's not really.
Sorry, what's that? I missed that word.
Rehypothecation. In other words, taking the asset and then they are borrowing against it, and then they pay it back. If you demand it, they'll bring it back to you. But basically, they can use your assets in their own daily operations. And if the term,
if I may, I feel like that's quite a reach.
Well, it might be. That's why I'm asking. That's why I have you here. Okay, please. Yeah.
Sure. So again, I don't represent them in any official capacity, but I am fairly well acquainted with the system, with the system generally. But I can't say that I necessarily know everything perfectly. But my understanding here is that there is a secure space, and you can send them an item, and I like what you often see there is luxury watches, which are obviously individual unique items with their own serial numbers, and what they actually do is they take microscopic pictures of them to one, to authenticate them, and two, to grade them, and they'll only accept them within a certain grade, and my understanding is that once they receive an item, until it actually sells, if you choose to sell it, it remains in your possession. And so if you send them your Rolex, I don't think you have to worry about, them renting it out, per day to anyone else. I think that's kind of, could that theoretically happen in a similar setup? I guess. But I think that's
but Bitcoin is different. But these tokens are different because they are particularly if I'm not comparing. I really think I make a big distinction between a Rolex and a Casisius coin, because a loaded, unpeeled Casisius coin, if it has 1,000 Bitcoin on it, it's worth a lot of money. Or even it has one, it's worth 3x the value. You're still talking about something that's worth over $50,000.
Sure, but I think what I didn't catch is what you were saying about how could those possibly be used by the exchange, because each Casasius coin has its own ID and number and all this, and they're not fungible. If I put in one Casasius coin, that's my specific coin. It's not like I can just take in another one because it's got its own serial number. They're graded individually.
Well, yeah, but my understanding is that one of the reasons they're doing it is to have access to the DeFi network, and so they can collateralize the coin for a loan, and because it's authenticated, and again, it seems like they're allowing the person that has the NFT to do that, but what's preventing the vault itself from doing it? Because they're not saying, nowhere in the TOS does it say it's a segregated asset. In fact, it uses the word that it represents commercial activity, which is really a vague thing. And again, I'm not impugning. What I'm trying to do, Elias, is make this thing better. I think you've got a great idea, but I think the underlying banking part of it is unsound. I think the whole crypto, and that's what I'm trying to fix. I think it's fixable. And I think you can probably be one of these leaders in the industry that can help fix it. I'm encouraging you. I'm not discouraging you, okay? I'm just kind of pointing to the problems because I think you'll see the problems that I'm talking about. I hope.
I mean, frankly, I'm not really seeing the problems. I mean, if we look at Web3, I mean, okay, we'll use an example. I have, this is a Cassasius coin, and it's it's ID 123 or whatever, and it's let's say it's got a market value of 2 Bitcoins, and I deposit it in there, and in return I immediately get the NFT. Now the NFT is in my control, right? So
yes.
In theory, I could put it up as collateral against a loan. Now that said, this whole thing of using these items, whether fine wines or artworks or Rolexes or Cassasius coins as collateral, it's theoretical as far as I know. I don't believe there is an active market at this point for doing that. It's just that it could become. But it's me that has the NFT in my wallet. So I don't have to worry about anyone else.
So then it comes right back to the question, and Jimmy Song's question, and my question that I asked. I'm beginning to see a little bit of a use case here, but you're kind of destroying that use case, was what you're saying, because why do we even need an NFT to do this? I mean, it seems like I would be much better off just using you, who's a broker and understands what I'm trying to do. What would be the advantage of me listing this Cassasius that I have physically on an exchange with your certification and authentication, as opposed to dealing with you directly to facilitate the purchase or sale?
I can't point to any specific thing that you individually would benefit from that. I mean, if you have a coin and you want to sell it, you can look at different marketplaces. You can consider selling it on eBay, which I wouldn't recommend. You can contact me.
I agree with you.
See if I can see, you can contact me I'll see if I can sell it to someone and take a commission. Or I might even, refer it to some other, auction house or something like that might take it off your hands and handle it for you. Or you might go to 4K and see if you can create an NFT and try to sell it that way. And that's kind of up to you as the seller. Maybe as an NFT, people would be more willing to buy it. Maybe there's a hype factor. I don't know. That depends on the market.
Right, and that's what I think. It depends upon your. And I've argued this all along that Bitcoin by itself gives us nothing. Really, to have sound banking, for banking to reemerge as something sound, it really is going to depend on you and I. We have to become men of integrity. And I think that you are one from all the things that you're writing, and I love your work. And, like I say, our reputations are everything. So, and there is in that sense, I want to encourage 4K. I hope they're legitimate. I think the longer that they go and they build the legitimacy, they can actually build a very sound market. And it looks to me, and if you're an expert on international law, what can we do? To me, the TOS doesn't reflect there's a big disconnect between what they're promoting on the website and their terms of service. Now, that's true on almost everything in the crypto world. And to me, that is one of the bridges that we have to close. And it seems like with your studies, you might be in a position to really help us all out in that. Isn't that kind of what you're doing in your research now, in your scholarly work?
Well, I do a few different things, but generally speaking, I try to bring some order into the chaos, explain things, whether it's authenticate. I mean, it's again the authentication. There's nothing mysterious there. I mean, if anyone watching has a coin and they want to authenticate it, you can take pictures of it and send me an email and ask if it's legit, and I'll tell you if I think it's legit. And if you want to buy a book for that, I'll appreciate that. But I mean, it's not any sort of magical thing that, oh, these are. But there is a system of me having a look at them and saying, this doesn't seem like it's a fake, which is a legitimate concern.
Right.
With
Well, it's kind of
capacious
like,
coins.
I don't know if you've ever watched that series, Pawn Stars, and where people come in and they have different items. And while the pawn shop does not necessarily have the expertise in that particular item, so they call in an expert. And
Yeah, that's exactly.
that's exactly what the function that you're operating, and you really know this stuff. I'm looking forward to reading your book, incidentally, so because I'm sure I'll learn a lot. And I just that's what I want to say. So, yeah, and that's my biggest thing is that I'm not. I don't think that the 4K exchange for physical NFTs, and you were the one that persuaded me of this. If I think it's a scam, then every exchange for crypto, they're all scams, and they're not. Okay, they're not scams. I just got informed our computer is hot.
Yeah, you heard?
Uh huh.
You heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so we're gonna have to finish up here because we're afraid we're gonna crash down completely. And I'd like to do this another time when you have time too. And I'm gonna read your books, and then maybe we'll get together again because I really do think I really appreciate you taking on my challenge too. Because it's not a lot of people, they just go there and they get real defensive, if you call it into question any of their projects. And I have not called it. I like this project. I like the whole concept. I see some real big problems in it, but I don't think they're unsolvable. I think that they can be overcome and need to be addressed. So, anything else you want to say, or that we can? Because I guess we're getting ready to explode here. It's very hot down here where we're at, and
Well, I think that one of the interesting things about specifically the Bitcoin world, which I myself have seen even from very early years, that there is this negativity, that there is this view that there's a desire among certain members of the community to first look at things and say that's a scam in a fairly accusatory way, and it's a weird culture to me because in some cultures of the world we operate from a perspective of trust. In some cultures are low trust, where everyone is my enemy until proven otherwise, and I think that's very toxic. And there are other cultures that are I assume that you're great and everything's fine unless you prove me wrong. And I find it's very interesting if you compare, let's say the Ethereum world, which again, by far, as anything being crypto, there's very much a don't trust, verify aspect. But I mean, I find that the approach of, this is a scam, this is, a claim I'm making, it's an interesting approach. But I mean, I felt that it was my duty to respond because my name was involved in that and so on.
Well, that's why, and I'm so glad you did, because a lot of people don't. But I have kind of gotten to the nuts and the bolts of the exchange, and I know you're not involved in the exchange, so it's too bad a spokesman for the exchange isn't here. Basically what you showed me, and I know you're a disinterested third party, except you're their official authenticator, which I don't know if that's a paying position or what. That's not important. You are legitimate. And I would hate to see your reputation tarnished in any way by, being authenticator for a failed exchange, which I'm sure you would be too. So I'm sure.
Frankly, again, I have no reason that they have any problem going on. But again, Bitcoin exchanges of all kinds have problems. But whether or not this was the case, it really doesn't affect me, because my task is to, it's like if you know something about stamps and someone asks, does this stamp look fake or real? You can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs
Right,
down.
and that's what you
But
did for me.
it's irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, what you showed me is that if any other exchange is not a scam, like say like Coinbase or BitMEX or Buy, Bybit, and I've used these exchanges. If they're not a scam, then this exchange is not a scam either, and that's what you showed me. And that doesn't mean there aren't really big problems and lots of red flags. And I think as a disinterested third party, as an authenticator, I think you will probably, and I want to kind of instill that vision with you, you will probably be a person that will help build sound exchanges, because that's what we really need. I think it is a reasonable position to assume everything is a scam until they show it isn't, because almost everything in the crypto world is a scam. I mean, it just is, and so you're making and most people have taken losses. They get sucked into one of these things, and they just wind up losing a fortune. What I teach, I call it equity trading, and I teach money management. So I have no problems using an exchange. I would have no problem in using the 4K protocol to try and sell an NFT, unless that was my only asset in the whole world. I don't think I would trust it to an exchange. But if it was just part of my portfolio, it would be a risk that an acceptable risk. And then I think we need to be clear on our terminology, because I think in our discussion, you kind of related it as being like a luggage ticket or a hat check. And when I looked into terms of service, I don't see that at all. It's not a hat check. Bond, correct. I think what you've done is you've created a bond, which I also, again, I don't go into, altcoins or shitcoins. There was one that I did lightly purchase, and that was the INEX exchange, simply because it was created just as you said. It really is a bond. And that is, I think that's an accurate description. Am I right on this, or do you really think it is like a hat check or a luggage check ticket that you're getting? Because that NFT is not a ticket. Anything that I've looked at. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't read the TOS and I haven't looked at, the specific terminology that's used. I'm speaking at the conceptual level of how it works
exactly.
to a client.
And that's where I'm at with you. I agree with you. I love the concept. I love the concept.
And right. So again, I'll rescue myself from this kind of legal minutiae. I don't think that I haven't read it. I don't, I'm not familiar with what's going on. And again, it's a U.S. company and it's U.S. law, which I don't know about.
Really? I didn't know.
So,
okay.
So it's based in, I think the CEO is based in Florida or California. So anyway, so it is what it is. But my point is that from the user side, I don't know if I feel that the hat check or coat check is probably more accurate than a bond, because I feel like a bond generally, you can say that they're very similar, but generally a bond, you look at something that's fungible. It's like, this is a bond for 100 tons of logs or iron or whatever. Maybe that would be more like some sort of other note. But I mean, how 4K functions is, if I have a specific item and I want to, I don't want to keep it at home, I can send it there and I get the NFT, which is effectively a ticket. And then I can give them back the ticket and they send me back the item. Or I can sell the ticket to someone else and then they can redeem it. I think that's a far better analogy.
Well, and I understand that. And I understand that is what is being sold. But like say, when I go into, and again, this is all new, and I'm familiar with the laws somewhat. I noticed there are a lot of other errors in their terms of service because if there's an abandonment, and particularly I know in California, I'm not sure about every state, but you can't just take that. It actually goes to the state. If somebody abandons property, again, and this might be different. This might be more like, what is it? When you rent these little warehouses and store your stuff, they take out and have those sales. But if you're in a bank, and the account dies, they can't find you. The bank does not get those funds. It has to go back.
I think that brings up the bag check again, and I don't think anyone is claiming that 4K is a bank or anything like that. So, if you leave your coat, or you leave your coat at the bag check and you have $100 in there, I don't think that's going to the state. I think there's maybe it goes to the lost and found, but I think it's also reasonable that they might have a policy where if it's not, not redeemed
Right.
or taken back at a certain, I think, again, I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not. Yeah. So it's not. And this isn't fair to have you have to answer for the terms of service on an exchange. You really don't do anything but authenticate. But I'm just glad I had you on because you're clarifying a lot of things to me. What you did for me, Elias, is that you persuaded me that this exchange is not a scam any more than any other crypto exchange is a scam. Now, all the details have to be sorted out, and I think this is really the biggest problem that we have ahead. We have this sound base money right now. And this sound base money, we actually have two of them. We have, of course, the old one, gold, and then we have the new one, Bitcoin. And they're both sound base monies. The problem we have is all these unsound base monies, which I would put Ethereum into one of those, and anything else. I think Bitcoin is definitely unique, but we might have disagreements. I'm telling you my assumptions. But what we need to do is figure out how do we develop this sound fiduciary money. And I don't think a lot of these guys in Bitcoin think it can be done technologically. And I don't agree with that at all. I think you hinted on it. It's what it really boils down to is basis on our culture. And in my culture, and my American culture, which is my background, right now, there is no shame. What's going on now in the financial world? You'd been thrown in jail for life a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 40 years. In fact, I did over 11 years in prison because I did it. So I'm speaking from experience, okay? And so what we've lost is that men of integrity, that we, in other words, it's almost like these scams are promoted because that's the way people think they should make money rather than, and what they're doing, basically the way I describe it is they create money before they create wealth. Whereas in sound banking, what happens is you have to create the wealth first, and then you can create the money representing that wealth. And we actually call that self-liquidating commercial paper. In other words, you can create a non-inflationary money so long as that money represents that it's fully collateralized. And then as that stuff is sold, that money is reduced. So it's actually the marketplace rather than the higher ups or a central authority that's determining the money supply. But these are all theoretical. But my mentor, E.C. Harwood, called it the lost art of commercial banking. And it's lost. We forgot about it. We don't really know what it was. It was the classic gold standard, which most people, I don't think we really understood what it was, but it emerged organically, just like Bitcoin did. It didn't come from the top down. It was merchants that figured out they needed it. And so, like I say, conceptually, I'm 100% on your, I get it, and you see the value of Bitcoin. So, while I've got you, I guess they fixed the computer problems. We're not going to blow up, so that's great. But tell me about other coins that are you don't just do the facetious. What other coins have you researched?
I mean, there's hundreds. If we look at the encyclopedia, which I published in 2016, I think that included coins by about 55 or so different manufacturers. And, today that number is, at a level, I mean, it's gotten so blurry and that it's really impossible to say how many different people have, made physical representations of cryptocurrency in a coin form. I mean, it's thousands and thousands, but there are definitely hundreds of sets that could be considered collectible, and I think that's increasing with time. Just very recently, Stax Bowers Galleries, it's the oldest U.S. coin auction house. They've had several auctions of specifically physical bitcoins, including Casasius coins and those by other makers. So they are becoming recognized among traditional numismatists, current coin collectors as, they're beginning to be recognized as, legitimate collectibles. Again, we can say,
But
as far as names go,
Casasius is considered the granddaddy of them all, though, would you say?
it is, yes. I mean,
What
I
makes
think
it unique? What makes that unique? Can you explain to the audience why they're unique?
Sure. So Casasius was just simply the first to take coins, metal coins, and put Bitcoin into them to effectively make paper wallets out of metal, to give Bitcoin a physical metallic coin-like form, and also he did so at a very early stage, which means that the coins that exist today tend to be very, very highly valuable because they have 1 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoins, 25 Bitcoins loaded inside of them. Still, those that haven't been redeemed. There was also a huge amount of volume. I think there's still about 20,000 Casasius coins that are non-redeemed, unpeeled, that are still loaded out there, which is among the largest. So it's just it's like if we compare Bitcoin to Binance Coin and Dogecoin and others, it's kind of the ultimate. It doesn't mean it's the only thing there, and frankly, they're priced out for a majority of collectors.
Okay. So this is why I really, relate to you, is because you recognize the collector value in these hard Bitcoin pieces like Casasius. But boy,
Well, I'll show you here.
Okay.
Just give me a moment. This is a Casasius coin.
Yes.
I'll show you this side. So that is 1 ounce of silver. It is graded. And on the other side, there's a sticker. And if I peel the sticker, there is a private key to 1 Bitcoin.
Exactly. Now, are you doing I bought one of those. I think it was already graded and everything. I think you buy them graded. Are you grading them too, or you just authenticate them?
I'm not grading them. I mean, I can maybe assist in it, but
you
it's
just make sure they're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's professional.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that. So I mean, the grading is important, but it's basically if you want to buy or sell. I mean, as a buyer, you want to make sure you're not buying some fraudulent piece of artwork, and this is what your service really is about. And you also recognize what makes a collectible valuable. And so my question is, how fully do you embrace this whole idea of? I mean, these collectibles don't really need an NFT. I mean, would you agree with that? But perhaps they can add additional value simply because it makes them easier to trade. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. I would say that these collectors don't need an NFT any more than stamps or stamp collections or classic car collections need an NFT. Can you have an NFT for them? Yes. If you execute it in a way that improves something, it's kind of like I don't know what would be an equivalent innovation. I mean, imagine a sailing boat, and you say, electricity comes around, and you say, is this sailing boat better with electricity? Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, maybe it doesn't need it. Maybe it can be improved. Maybe you could add a propeller to it. Um, I mean, we'll use the example of classic cars, or even whatever. I mean, let's say if there's a garage and I have 100 classic cars, uh, maybe I can issue NFTs of each of them, and they trade hands, and
Right. So
yeah,
I mean,
it'll be a car project.
there's a self-interest, a long-term self-interest for 4K platform to become, to build their reputation. Their whole business is going to has to be built on the idea that they're a trustworthy place that I can give them custody of my asset. And one of the other problems that I have is I understand the facetious, but if I get this NFT, I'm not sure I would understand. Reading the fine print, I am the one that am solely and have custody of that, and it's my responsibility to keep the custody. What does that mean?
So it depends, but in the classical sense, it means that the NFT is effectively a bearer bond. It's like your coat check tag. If you lose that, I mean, you don't get your coat back. I mean, probably you do in reality, but in this case, you don't in the classical model. If you have $100 bill and you accidentally burn it, your dollars are gone. So I think that's the same thing with an NFT, and that means that theoretically, if your wallet gets hacked, or if you lose access to your wallet, then it's gone. Now there are solutions to that, and even with NFTs, we can talk about NFTs that exist kind of in the wild web, so to say, in the sense that they really are bearer bonds. And then I think there are NFTs that are actually tied to an individual, or they might even be held. The NFT might be held in custody by a company. And I'm not specifically referring to 4K. I don't know or if they even do this or will, but this is another thing that can happen. You can have NFTs moving within a closed system, or within a number of systems, but still not leaving a system. So again, this is a new area, and we are just scratching the surface in many ways.
You're right. Well, I've been told we are going to have to shut down, but hey, I really appreciate you having you on. I do want to get your books and maybe have you on again later down when I'm more familiar with your work. Because I just want to encourage you a lot, Elias, because I think you already know that you're really onto something. And when did you catch this vision? Was that almost immediately, or has it just been growing and growing over the years?
I guess I don't know if there's a singular vision. I mean, I came across Bitcoin again when I was in first year of university, and I was studying political science at the time, and I came to the view that this was a fundamental innovation, because I believe it changes the balance of power, and I don't mean that in any ideological way. And unlike a lot of people in the blockchain space, in the Bitcoin space specifically, they have personal ideologies and values about what should be and what this is going to do and how we're going to improve the world and save the world. And whether or not I have those, I don't bring them out, because I see myself more as a person who is observing what's going on and drawing conclusions from that, and not saying that this is good or bad, or passing judgment on the world, so to say. But what I think was, I mean, if we will go back to 1600s, we had the John Locke, if I'm not mixing these things up, came with the behemoth, the sovereign, and there's this idea that sorry, my brain is kind of shutting down with all these news and and sovereigns and things that are going on right now. So I can't form my
Right.
thoughts properly. But I mean, there's this concept that government is able to control things that happen in their territory. If you have money in your bank account, the government can take that away. If you have gold coins in your little chest at home, the government can go there and take it away if there's a war or something and they need it. And fundamentally, in most legal systems, even today, that is entirely valid. If people
Yes.
are the actor within a larger organism, and if that organism says that we need to do this, that can be done. The fact that there exists this kind of private key cryptography, it fundamentally changes that balance of power between individuals and or you could say between different levels of society. And
Right.
then the example that I use is, let's say someone was a government official and they decided, and they live in some small country somewhere, and they steal $1 billion from the government and they manage to transfer it into Bitcoin. The government can't take that. They could go into their house, they can, dig up their lawn for, buried gold or buried bills, and they can trace it all. But if it's in Bitcoin or in stable coins or whatever, they can't touch that, and they can put him into jail for 20 years. He can serve his sentence. He can come back, get into the library, and the money's there.
There you go.
And that fundamentally, that changes how the system can function, whether it has a direct impact or whether it changes anything in practice is one thing, but it is a fundamental shift.
Well, this is why I've actually written that gold is the only viable competition to Bitcoin, and if the governments would resurrect the gold standard, Bitcoin will keep that gold standard honest because it will be it it actually acts as a catalyst to keep it on. They work with each other. I would love to see sound money everywhere. But if a government is acting up, Bitcoin is that escape money where you're not stuck into various sovereign jurisdictions. So I'm kind of unique in that because nobody likes that. They seem to either, well, I'm for Bitcoin and they hate gold, or they love gold and hate Bitcoin. Saifedean has written about it, but he doesn't think it'll ever happen. I think it's more likely to happen than not happen, because I think where we're at now, the governments may have no other choice but to restore a gold standard of some kind. And if that happens, I think Bitcoin is going to be the facilitator to keep it honest, because the people that have Bitcoin will move to the jurisdictions where the money is more sound. And that's already, I think, happening. But
I mean, I think, frankly, I can't really follow that, because, I mean, one, the people that have Bitcoin it's an infinitesimally small portion of any population almost anywhere. And I mean, I don't see what the two have to do with each other than that they have some of the, theoretical same properties. I mean, gold has, historically been money for certain reasons and certain properties. And, there's been other competitors, there's been copper, there's been silver. We're talking about commodities. I mean, the whole conversation about sound money, and I respect that that's kind of a theme of your show, but I mean, it is an ideological and philosophical position, and that's not one that is, it might be more popular in some circles and in some places, and it might be, entirely foreign and unknown, in other places. So, whether or not that's a global thing, and whether or not, I mean, I think it's a narrative, and I think it's one narrative that can be influential.
yeah, I think it is a narrative, but I think the reason the narrative is important is that those civilizations that have really advanced have had sound money. The ones that don't have sound money do not are they're not as civilized as the civilizations that do. It seems to be kind of a common thing that, at least for a time, for a civilization to grow, it has to have sound money. It may only last for a generation. I mean, You can see the degradation of money if you study, the Roman history or Greek history, and it is, documented in the coinage, as you well know. So I don't think that's just a narrative. I think there's a result for cultures that have sound money, and I think it's a positive one. I mean that. I don't. So I don't think it's just a narrative. I think it's important if we want to maintain the civilization that we have today. I might be mistaken, but that's my
I mean, it's kind of interesting. I just as a side little story here. I guess a month ago, I visited the central bank of Germany, Bundesbank, and they had a money museum there. And they talked about all this. They talked about Rome and how the coins were being effectively debased, and how that was one of the causes of various problems in the economy. And they talked about inflation, and the fact that the purpose of the euro is to like I think most currencies is to be a stable currency. And it was kind of I found it interesting because on one hand it was of prime importance that it is a stable currency, and that is the goal, and that is the purpose of the euro and the central bank. But then on the other hand, the goal is to keep inflation at 2% per year, which they, and the reason for that, and I found it very interesting, and I don't necessarily understand the whole thing behind it, but the idea, their view was that because there's so many countries within the union, the average should be about 2%, because if the average was to be, 0, that would mean that in some countries, in some areas, you would have deflation, which for whatever, which according to their reasoning is not good. So I found that very interesting. But again, then right beside that, they have this, chart that shows different countries like Estonia and Latvia with 22% inflation this year. So it was kind of a
and the problem that we have is we've really gotten away from what inflation used to be, creation of money supply. But now way we define inflation is price inflation. Rising prices is inflation. Whereas the classical idea of inflation is you're increasing the money supply without any correspondingly increase of goods. And that's kind of the monetarist. I mean, Milton Friedman, I think he was in favor of a 5% growth in money every year. Whereas I think the classical gold standard, that emerged, this idea of self-liquidating commercial paper, the money supply is regulated by the market itself, which that was the innovation, and people have a hard time understanding that as you're creating new wealth, you can increase the money supply. Now it has to be tied to something apart from. You can't value it in dollars. It's not tied to anything. The reason it worked is because the dollar was tied to gold. So you can issue notes as long as those notes are tied to something like Bitcoin or gold. And I've actually argued that in Bitcoin, the banker of last resort are the hodlers. Under a sound commercial banking system, as the price of Bitcoin goes up, you're going to be lending out less and less Bitcoin. And if you do have let's say it doesn't matter how much it goes up, if it goes up 2x or 1,000x, eventually it gets to a price where the hodlers will come into that jurisdiction and say, hey, I'm going to trade some of my Bitcoin into these other things I want. Which, you and I have been able to do that. I mean, I have things I never dreamed I would have, and Bitcoin has made that possible. I mean, I'd have been better off just holding the Bitcoin, but you got to live and eat too, right? So that's the way an economy works, and that's what I'm trying to teach people. I don't have the solution, but I think collectively we do. But it's going to be based from men of integrity, and we have to want to basically be fair. We need to have honest weights and measures. And I think Bitcoin gives us that opportunity. But ultimately, it doesn't depend upon Bitcoin. It depends on you and me being honest men. right?
I don't really follow the whole reasoning you have here. I think that, I mean, you talk about how, this is how the economy works and the gold standard. I mean, we haven't, no country has had the gold standard for,
Well,
generations at
that's
this point.
right. That's why I
It's an
call
old system.
Well, I call it self-liquidating commercial paper, which that's some people understand that better. But
But I don't think that's the official terminology, and I think you calling that is kind of just you making that up. You calling it that. I don't think that that's the what the mainstream will call.
Well, I don't think the mainstream wants sound money.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, again,
I'm not Michael.
that's
Like I say,
right. But
that's
I mean,
all.
that's
Why I
the
said
point.
there's a moral base. In other words, the foundation is not the base money, but it's the integrity of the people behind it.
Right, but
And
I mean,
for men of integrity, we don't need.
My
sound
point
money.
is that when you talk about sound, you're talking about sound. You're basically preaching about this concept that most people don't necessarily recognize or agree, and you're kind of preaching about it as a reality.
I disagree with that. I think everybody fundamentally wants sound money. We don't want to get screwed by somebody else manipulating the money. It's a common goal. It really is a common self-interest. I mean, you don't want me paying you in something less than what we agreed to. That's all sound money is. It's not a hard concept. It really boils down to a revelation, which is given by before directly, and that is, "Thou shalt not steal." It's that simple. That's what sound money is. It's a matter of having just weights and balances. It's not a technological issue. It's a human issue. Right?
Well, I mean, I don't know how I feel about bringing religion or things like this into money. I think that these are different.
Whoa. I'm not bringing religion in. I'm calling it the stealing of religion. I think everybody, whether you're an atheist or Hindu or Christian, everybody's against stealing, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Why? Why are you against stealing? Where does that come from? Is that just our culture? Or is that something that maybe we're created in that image?
Well, I mean, it depends on. So, I mean, we have social contracts, right? I mean, this goes back to how government, where governments come from. I mean,
but
if you look at
the contracts come from the idea, this original idea I'm going back to, stealing honest weights.
Right. Okay. So
the contract. So we give a contract to try and achieve that goal, right?
I'm gonna just run a little bit forward because I think I know where you're going with this. There is this concept that some people say that taxation is theft. Some people will also say that inflation is a hidden tax, which is a form of theft. Now, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that if going back to
I've never said taxation is theft.
Sure. I mean,
I don't believe that. I think there's a legitimate taxation.
Sure. So anyway, what I'm saying is that you could argue that inflation is a sort of hidden tax because if a government prints more money, that creates
Exactly.
Anyway,
right.
it depends entirely. I mean, some people have an individualist view where you approach the world from the direction that I'm an individual and I have rights and I have this and this is mine and this isn't someone else's, and that's one way of seeing things. Other people don't see it like that. Other cultures, other societies, other countries don't necessarily have that view. So again, it's not necessarily a universal way of understanding money or value or anything, but I think it's a powerful narrative, and I think it's an important one.
Well, okay. I mean, I see what you're saying about. I don't really disagree. I mean, but I don't agree either. I mean, we're sitting here. Maybe we're talking past each other a little bit, but what I'm saying is, I think there are common values, and I think, for example, stealing is something that nearly every culture is embraced. Now, some might
Sure.
you can maybe point to some exceptions, but it's kind of planted. It's part of our. We're not born with a blank mind. We have lot. We can think. That's what makes us unique. I think it's because we're actually created in the image of our Creator. This is how we're endowed supernaturally, and why mankind is different from animal kind. We're not just amoebas that are out there, but we've actually been you know created with a in the image of the Creator, which you don't have to accept that, but that's where I'm coming from, and that's why I do think that the technology is not going to save us, and it's going to be has to actually be a change in the hearts and mind that we just have to say, you know what, we need to be, we want dishonest dealing should be shunned rather than glorified. And right now we're in a anybody, oh wow, he was a scammer and made millions, and we almost make these guys into rock stars, and that's a cultural problem, I think. So
Sure.
and I do think I think we both acknowledge that to a large degree Bitcoin is solving that, because we now have something that's independent of, at least it can't be easily manipulated. It's not a creation of, it's not being first in line for the trough, the welfare trough, whatever it is. It's kind of, when you hear about Bitcoin, then how many years, I mean, I heard about Bitcoin probably in 2011 or 10, but I didn't get into it till 2013. And everybody has a story similar to that. So we wish we'd got into it earlier, but we're glad that we're in it now, right? All right. Well, I just want to wish you well. I thank you for coming on, and I do want to keep in contact with you. I want to recognize you for what you've accomplished, and I just want to encourage you in what you're doing. And how long have you been in Dubai? I went to a conference there, Tone Bay's conference there last year about this time, and that's your home now, is in Dubai?
Yeah. I've been in and out for a little over a year now, I guess. But I've been here formally since January.
Well, I met a lot of people, particularly in the crypto space, not necessarily the Bitcoin space, but a lot of the crypto people really do like Dubai. They're very receptive to those ideas there. Is that what you found?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with the good and bad. I mean, a lot of crypto things, it attracts a lot of hot air, and then a lot of scams, as we've discussed, and a lot of useless projects. I think, I see that a lot, partly because there's so many events here. I mean, one of the things with Dubai is that it's in the center of the world in a lot of ways. If we forget about North America and South America, it's close to China, it's close to Asia, it's close to Africa, it's close to the Middle East, it's close to Europe. I think about 80% of the world's population, I don't know if it was 70 or 80%, is within a 6-hour flight from here.
Really?
So it's basically, this is the global conference center. I think last October, if I recall, or was it? Yeah, or was it? I feel like there's, 2 conference seasons around, September to November, and then like January to February, March, and then there's months here where you have 10 blockchain conferences, and it's like the last day of one is the first day of the second, and it's
Wow.
thousands of people coming to each. So it's there's happening. It's one city. The government has metaverse strategies, and they're trying to create hundreds of thousands of metaverse jobs here, which has been discussed. I mean, I think the Dubai police issue NFTs. It's just a very, very technology first, government structure, which and a very nimble
You
one
said
that embraces.
what did you just say? Something you said something about the police and NFTs. What did you just?
Yeah,
say?
I think Dubai police have NFTs, if I'm correct.
Really? What for? What? What would their?
I don't
purpose
know.
be?
Frankly, I've never. I assume they're just something they give out or something like this. And I think
Oh.
Emirates Airlines has like an
Okay,
NFT
okay,
lab as
okay,
well.
okay. Yeah, and this
But the
is what.
fact is,
All right, and this is what
yeah,
this is what my article addresses, and like I say, and I am one of those. I 99. If it's crypto, I'm going to dismiss you unless you can really overcome. I'm a tough gatekeeper, and so and then people get real defensive. Well, I'm negative on. And I said, no, I'm not negative. Just show me that this thing's worthwhile. And I think you met that test. And again, it's a high standard, but it's also a very low standard because I said, well, if these exchanges aren't scams, I mean, I think they're really bad banking. And that's how they're not scams, but it's poor banking. This is exactly where this is at. And I'm just saying it's there. It's not a scam, but boy, it's got a lot of room for improvement. That's all I have to say. And I think hopefully you'll be a big force in helping that improve because I do think from what I've read, and again, I can be corrected, this is not a segregated warehouse. When you give reading all the fine print, when you give your Casicius over to the exchange, you have given up custody, and they have full custody. You only have custody of this NFT, and you're fully responsible for it. So it's kind of like you say, I mean, what happens if I blow my custody and lose the NFT or somebody steals the NFT? Can they now come and claim that? Or is also because these guys have custody?
I'm pretty sure yes. I believe yes. If someone were to steal your NFT, just like if someone steals your car key or your coat check ticket, they can go and claim it. And unlike with the car, there's not much you can do because and maybe if you. I don't know.
I see. I don't think that's clear at all either because when you register when you submit that, you have to go through. You're giving your information. They know who you are. You're not sending it there. So, can somebody else make a claim, or is it kind of like PayPal or a credit card, and you can kind of undo the situation because you are registered on that centralized exchange? It seems to me like you would have at least that kind of protection.
So my understanding is that generally the NFT goes into your possession. So the NFT does not stay in any centralized exchange. It's more that you get the NFT, and that means you're responsible for it, just like you are responsible for your physical item. It's just that for certain people in certain situations, they would much rather be responsible for an NFT than for a bunch of physical items. Because
so my question is, let's just say nobody steals my NFT. I just lose my NFT. Now, because I'm registered with this exchange, I'm guessing, and it's not clear at all, but hey, I lost this thing. This belongs to me, but I don't have the NFT now. What procedure can I go through to get my custodial property back? And then what happens to it in the process? If it's lost, does this just sit on the exchange and they finally sell it to? This is what I'm saying. They can do anything they want to with it. It looks like, and you're not even protected if you lose that NFT. There's a lot of, like I say, I love the concept, but boy, it's got a lot of work to do to make it trustworthy.
So, and again, I'm not speaking on behalf of 4K, and I don't know what their specific procedure is, but on the basic level, general level of how you can imagine this NFT environment working is that would be a problem, because if you say because the NFT, as we describe in this situation, it is a bearer bond. It's the key. It's like so you can freely sell it to someone else. So if you're saying that you could go in and say like, hey, this belongs to me, but I lost it, can you give it to me? Well, you could have sold that NFT to someone for $100,000 and then going there and claiming that, oh, I lost it, and that's not, you can't do that. So I think, when you look at a situation like this, it's kind of like, a Bitcoin address in itself. If you lose the private key, then, tough luck. If you have a numbered Swiss bank account, which I recognize don't really exist anymore, but if you have a numbered Swiss bank account that is not in your name, and you lose the password or lose the safety deposit box key to the box that is not in your name, you're out. And that is the nature of not just NFTs, but of the entire self-custody regime of cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting. I think we both agree that the interesting part of this is going to be to see if these NFT physical exchanges actually can command a premium for their coins. And, and the other problem is they do have credibility, even at an exchange, because you tend to self-promote yourself. And, you're going to claim that you're selling them at a premium when maybe you're really not. So because I look at the marketplace on there, and yeah, they sold one for 3.5, but it kind of looks like that might be the exception, which it should be. I mean, you're promoting something. You would, wow, we got this much for it, but that doesn't mean all of them are going to sell for that. So again, what I thank you for is that the NFT physically backed tokens. Exchanges, they're not, as long as you understand what they are, they're not a scam. They're not, I don't think, intentionally going out. They might be intentionally scamming you and you don't know about it, but as long as you understand those risks, then it's fine to do. I don't think I would ever do it. I think if I wanted to ever sell my Casticius, I'd just go right to you and say, hey, do you have a buyer for this? It would seem like a much better alternative to me than to put it on the blockchain. But it looks to me like they're doing it because they really want people to be able to collateralize and use the DeFi network and the Web3 network and do all these other things, which I think is going to add to the problem more than create solutions. And I'm here trying to create solutions. I think there are good ideas out there apart from Bitcoin, but we still need to integrate them, on sound platforms. And I'm not sure. I think the state of catastrophe right now is our Bitcoin banking, is the crypto world, which dominates the bank. The exchanges are the banks right now for the most part. And that's the weakness of crypto. And it's actually on Achilles heels right now for Bitcoin. So we shall see.
I think just on that note that you were, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Yeah, so you said that if you wanted to sell a Casticius coin, you would you would get in touch with me. I mean, even if we look at that, I mean, there's a few ways you can conceptualize it. I mean, sure, you could get in touch with me and I could say that, okay, there's a buyer right now, and you just send it to me or to the buyer directly, or you meet the buyer or whatever. And that's one way of doing things. Another way of, and again, I'm speaking conceptually here, imagine that I have a coin shop, whether physical or, just kind of, digitally, and people send me coins, for example, and I hold a bunch of coins that are owned by other people. Now usually at this stage, that's not something I'm doing. Exactly. I mean, that's an old system,
Exactly.
But why would I not, or would anything change if I issued an NFT? Let's say if you sent me your coin and 10 other people sent me their coins, and I issued, I said that my site is now going to be an NFT marketplace, and you can, if you want to buy, this specific coin, you can buy you're buying the NFT, and then when you own the NFT, it just means that I'm effectively holding this on your behalf, and then you can immediately redeem that NFT, in which case I send it to you, or you might decide to, keep it within my custody, and then, because you want to sell it, let's say half a year later.
I understand that. That's why I find it fascinating, and that's why I said it's not a scam. It's a genuine market function, but we have a long way to go to learn how to. I'm not sure they're set up properly. Is what I'm saying. We got, it's like these terms of service. They're constantly changing. If you don't agree to them, well, you can't be on our platform anymore. We have weird ways of doing things that didn't used to exist. Even a generation ago, a contract is changed. Midterm and constantly online, and it's hard to have like, the old idea is, this certificate is redeemable in silver coins. There's always legalese. Terms of service are pages and pages of legalese that's very difficult to understand, and that's where. But we're a litigious society too. That's the problem too, particularly in the United States. So. At any rate, I appreciate what you're doing. I understand the niche that you're in, and I'll be interesting. Keep being a great Bitcoin capacious historian. There's so much. I'm looking forward to your book. It has got some pretty good reviews on it. So, at any rate, thanks.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And again. Read the article. I'm not doing a read through on it, but it's fairly thorough. Again, I'm not endorsing NFTs, self-custody NFTs. I'm certainly not endorsing the exchange. I don't have any problems endorsing Elias here because he's already proved himself as being an expert in this particular niche. And so I think he's earned that position. From what he's done in the past. So I just want to encourage you on that, and I'm looking forward to reading your material, and we'll continue on this fascinating journey in Bitcoin together.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for tuning in.